welcome to First Things First. It's Tuesday. Gosh, that kind of day. I'm Jenna Wolf. That's the Hall.
It just started.
I know.
How can it be that kind of day?
I know. I mean, we've been up for hours.
All right, listen, I'm not the one. I am the least veteran television member of the show, but let me give you a piece of advice.
Oh.
Okay, if I may.
Okay. Easy.
If you're going to make announcing the day of the week a big part of starting the show,
I should know the day of the week.
Maybe write it down.
Oh, hold on. So we're two can play this game. If stats are going to be your thing, maybe remember your stats.
I brought my wrong folder. Okay. I brought my wrong folder, but I've got them committed to memory.
I know what day it is.
Chris Carter,
you asked me 3 times.
Happy Tuesday. Good to see you, brother.
I'm flying by myself. I'm going to do a hell of a show.
No, you're not.
I'm
Where's
flying
your
by
phone?
myself. No, I'm flying by myself.
You forgot your phone today.
Yeah, but that ain't no big deal. That ain't no problem for me.
Nothing. Okay, we're all good to go. Hey,
I can bring up my computer because everything on my phone goes right to my computer in my house.
What are you saying, Cece?
Baby Sue, what up, baby?
Another night of big news in the NBA. To all those opposed to the super teams in the National Basketball Association, I present to you our top story. The Golden State Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie Cousins, to a 1-year, $5.3 million deal. Or in other words, the best team in basketball by far just got better. Cousins is recovering from a torn Achilles, didn't have a ton of other offers, and called this his chess move. Classic H4 to G6. He's hoping to be fully recovered by training camp, and many speculate he won't be back until late December. Cece, what was your reaction when you heard about the signing?
I'm glad you mentioned that he said it's a chess move, because if this is not checkers, like, I don't know how to play checkers or chess. This is no chess move.
Thank you.
All right, this is no. You think he couldn't got the mid-cap exception?
The mid-level exception elsewhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, $5 million on the second day of free agency, basically, right?
Yeah, this isn't light years ahead, Golden State.
No.
This is a rich guy finding a sack of money that was left at his driveway.
I mean, this is a guy who, from a business standpoint, I question how savvy it is, and I know it's a panic move. It's a desperation. Man, his phone wasn't ringing off the hook when free agency came in at midnight Eastern Standard Time. On say, LeBron was meeting with Magic Johnson, all these other players, things were happening. Boogie Cousins, no. In his feelings, panicked, reached out to Golden State. Golden State didn't even have him on the radar. Oh, who? Boogie, you're in the NBA? Oh, you're.
They didn't think it was. They thought it was a joke. They didn't think it was. Yesterday, you and I argued about Boogie Cousins briefly because I was asked if the Lakers should want to sign him. And it was, to me, really depending on how long. Are we talking about a 2-year, $15 to $20 million deal? Then, yeah, 3 years, probably not. And Chris says to me, he's like, well, you pick the terms. It's our show. Yeah. And I said flippantly, I said, yeah, give him the mid-level exception, then I'd happily take him. And I said that sarcastically because it was laughable.
And the Lakers had basically just given Rondo twice as much.
The Lakers, the team that had Boogie, gave Julius Randle $18 million over 2 years and say, oh, well, Boogie didn't want a 2-year commitment. Julius Randle's deal, which pays him $9 million this year, has a player option for the next year. They would have happily given that to Boogie Cousins.
Boogie didn't want it.
Well, listen, what happened is, and I understand Boogie told Mark Spears, I had 0 offers. That has been, listen, Sham Charania, who is outstanding, says that's not true. Zach Lowe talks about, now what Boogie didn't get was any full max offers.
Right.
What Boogie didn't get was any even 3-year
Which
max
is not surprising.
Or he didn't get the DeAndre Jordan.
The 1 year, $25 million that DeAndre got.
But coming off a torn Achilles, he should have known he's not going to get a max offer until he comes back, shows he can play, that he's healthy, and he can put the numbers
No,
up.
Jenna, I disagree with that. This offseason, people were talking about, and at the end of the regular season, people were talking about, man, they got to give him the max. The reason why you got to give him the max because you got to be able to protect. I've learned this from Nick. You got to be able to protect the asset.
So what happened?
And by the way, I may be overstated the marketplace to a degree to where New Orleans could have protected the asset without giving him the max. Maybe they clearly didn't have to give him the max. But what they had to do, what they could have done, was give him a multi-year commitment for up close to $20 million a year, not $30 million a year up around the max. But there's a huge gulf between that and $5.3 million. And so, I just want the audience to see. People are going to be like, well, free agency this year. Not a lot of money in free agency this year. Can we just show America what some people who my guess is most of the audience does not know what teams these guys play for. How about Doug McDermott? Dougie McBuckets. He got 7.3. Mario Hezonja.
For 3 years.
Right, absolutely. Mario Hezonja. How about he gets 6.5? Aaron Baines. Man bun Aaron Baines gets 5.5.
These are all players making more than Boogie Cousins.
That all signed in the last 72 hours. These are not just guys making more, guys that in this marketplace.
Take it back, Nick. Tell us why. Tell us what happened, why he signed.
Because ain't nobody want to compete anymore, man. Because that's why. Because there is a new paradigm in this league where evidently it is just, not only is it okay, but I am the one who is going to be criticized for daring to say I miss an NBA where there was some actual suspense about what the end of the movie was going to be.
Not even parody, just suspense.
Just some suspense, just the thought. Because we have gone, there was once upon a time where all sports writers and all sports commentators appeared to be 60-something-year-old white guys, and they all criticized athletes at all times for everything. And now we've swung so far in the other direction that if you dare criticize any athlete for anything, you don't get it. You don't understand that, though, Kevin Durant taking less so Boogie can make this is smart. Well, actually, Kevin Durant taking less doesn't help them sign Boogie. It does save Joe Lacob $18 million in tax money. Good for Joe Lacob, who now only has $7.2 billion. But the idea that the response for Boogie's feelings being hurt to be, you know what? Let me just guarantee myself a ring. What's that ring worth? I really want to know. What is this year's, because let's just give it to them, what is this year's Golden State Warriors championship ring worth? When you win 73 games, they replace Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant. You sweep the finals, you replace JaVale McGee with Boogie Cousins. What is even happening to this league I love so much? What is going on? I don't know what's going on.
Well, all we can say is that this generation of athletes is totally different. And we don't like to get into the old man conversation because we go back to Michael Jordan and his era and all these players, Patrick Ewing, all these other players, Reggie Miller, all these players always say, man, we would have never done that. I don't see an NBA era where you get an NBA all-star who, forget about the panic, but decides to join a team with 4 other all-stars, and he's in the most important year of his career. So what does he gain? What is it worth? It's only worth something if he's able to repair his image, if he's able to show another organization, because the Pelicans was the only organization since he's left high school that he didn't have problems with. And the people at Kentucky, they do all they can to try to protect DeMarcus, but you're talking about a guy that's caused a lot of people a lot of different issues. And
he caused problems from Team USA. If you listen to Mike D'Antoni.
Can't that also factor in maybe why he wasn't such a valuable
Absolutely, but the gulf between not being the most valuable asset and taking less money than Ersan Ilyasova is an enormous gulf.
No, he would have to have some setback as far as his Achilles this offseason, and that be public knowledge for him to call the Warriors. The Warriors didn't call him. Like, he called the Warriors.
So do you put more blame on the concept of the super team on the player or on the team? Is it the Warriors or is it Boogie Cousins?
Listen, I'll go also, I hear from people, what are they supposed to, Draymond's not supposed to recruit him. Yeah, how about that? How about that? What is that a bridge too far? Is it a bridge too far to say, you know what, we swept the finals? We are 3 out of 4 champions, 2-time defending champions, maybe 4 in a row if Draymond, don't get suspended for repeatedly attacking the groin area of players during the playoffs. Maybe I'm going to set my John Calipari recruitment hat down for an offseason. Is that ridiculous to say? Like, we are now in a situation where Klay Thompson is the 2nd greatest shooter ever, and he is the 5th most accomplished player on the team.
Now, I don't blame anyone. I don't think you have to sit here and try to blame someone this morning because it's the owner's responsibility to try to maintain the championship level on the court and off the court. They got one more season in Oracle. They got a beautiful new place that they're transitioning to. They got a beautiful practice facility. I mean, they are I mean, they are the light
gold standard.
You know, the gold standard for the NBA. The players. It's the players' responsibility to maintain the relationships that they have, either on the team or around the league, so that they can get better. So the ownership is doing exactly what they're doing. Draymond, I ain't got no problem with Draymond. Draymond's doing what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to take care of his body, take care of his current teammates, and try to fill out the rest of the roster so that they can get better, so that they can continue this run that they're on. That's the only way that Draymond's going to be remembered.
Right.
Like, as a role player on a great team, the only way it's going to be remembered is, man, did we win 4, 5? So I got no problem with that. My biggest problem is with the other great players in the NBA saying, you know something, I'm getting ready to help them out to make it easier for them. That's my only problem.
Like, it's one thing, Charles Barkley, at the end of his long, storied career, who could never quite get over the Michael Jordan hump, saying, you know what, I'm going to, for my last few years, go to Houston, a guy that's won a championship, really the only guy in the league that's won a championship, the best player other than Jordan, join Akeem in my last couple years. Boogie Cousins is in the prime of his career. I understand
he's 27 years old.
I understand he's coming off a torn Achilles. I get it. But the idea, and it is amazing to me, that the narrative push by a lot of influential people trying to make it seem like he had no other choice. Boogie was going to be unemployed. Yeah. It's just nonsense.
Is there a team you would have wanted? Would you rather him stay with the Pelicans? Or
29 others.
We were hoping he stayed with the Pelicans, though. To see what him, man, I mean, what
but
him and
the Pelicans brought in Julius Randle, did it really leave room for him?
Absolutely.
It don't matter, but you asked me the question.
No.
He was better. And what they had last year with the Brow was phenomenal. It was special. Like, we hadn't seen that type of productivity. So this is what happens. I was really pulling for Boogie. I was hoping for him to go with the Brow because I thought it was a unique combination of skill sets that we would not see together for a long, long time. It's hard for me to cheer for Boogie going to Golden State.
Right.
Now, I'm not cheering against him, but it's just hard for me to cheer for him.
And even with Julius Randle, they still could have brought him back, or they could have signed and trade with Washington. That was all things they were still working towards with Boogie Cousins in New Orleans.
All right, we got to leave it there. Take a break. Coming up, how about the Los Angeles Lakers? Do they have to go all in to trade for Kawhi? We'll talk about that, see where things are next on First Things First.
Hi, I'm Alexi Lawless. I used to play soccer back in the 1900s for the U.S. Now you can find me talking about soccer this summer during the World Cup on Fox. Now through July 15th, you can get daily FIFA World Cup updates from me through your Alexa-enabled device. Just say, Alexa, play the Fox Sports Flash briefing, and you'll get the latest tournament news straight from Russia. Alexa and Alexi. Now that's a winning team. Don't forget to watch the 2018 FIFA World Cup all tournament long live on Fox and FS1.
All right, let's talk Kawhi Leonard. As of this morning, he is still a Spur. As of sometime last season, he no longer wanted to be a Spur. By all reports, he still very much wants to play in Los Angeles, but the Spurs have reportedly been unhappy with the trade offers they've been receiving. In fact, the Lakers' proposals for Kawhi have reportedly been considered underwhelming and flat out unacceptable. CC, are the Lakers making a mistake not going all out to get Kawhi Leonard right now?
Well, given also the latest news as far as Boogie Cousins joining Golden State, I believe that Magic Johnson, that people with the Kawhi thing, there's some things that people misunderstand. They think that Kawhi has demanded a trade to the Lakers. No, he hadn't. He'll go anywhere in L.A. Like, he don't mind playing in the same building. Like, Kawhi does not have a preference over Magic, LeBron, and the Lakers over the Clippers. Now, people might think that he does, and he's demanded that. No, he hasn't. He's from San Diego, and he wants to go back to Los Angeles. He believes this is the only time in his career that he can control where he's going. And he doesn't care about the money. He believes he'll be a lot happier playing basketball in Los Angeles, and that's why he's not concerned about the Supermax contract and the amount of money. He's never lived his life for money, and that's not a concern of his.
So the point you made at the beginning, one people need to understand, Kawhi Leonard has demanded a trade to the city of Los Angeles.
Yes.
Not to a team there. Kawhi Leonard also felt this way whether LeBron went to the Lakers or not. and Kawhi Leonard, from your understanding, is agnostic to a degree about which team in Los Angeles he goes to. And tell me if I'm taking this step too far, there's an argument to be made that if Kawhi, let's say Kawhi hits true free agency, doesn't get traded. I understand that's not what he wants, but let's just say the Spurs hold the fort. Maybe Kawhi sits out the year, whatever it is. That with the Lakers and Clippers come calling, that he could potentially prefer the Clippers because of maybe more trust in Jerry West over Magic, maybe more trust in Doc over Luke Walton. And, well, but what about teaming up with LeBron? See, you know Kawhi a lot better than I do. You've told me Kawhi is not he's more like Russ than any of the other superstars when it comes to teaming up.
Yes, Kawhi feels as if he has a winning record against all the top players in the NBA. He feels like he'll play against LeBron. He doesn't care where LeBron is. He'll play against KD. He'll play against Steph. He'll play against Russ. Now, he's kind of fond of Russ, the way Russ treated the KD situation when KD didn't necessarily tell him and went off in the middle of the night and decided to sign with Golden State. He likes Russ for the fact that Russ is not begging guys to come play with them, but Russ is going at the best players in the world.
And one other point, and then I want to get to the Boogie part of this, which is from your understanding, the reports that if Kawhi gets traded to Philly, for example, he could potentially stay there long term, those are the opposite of true, correct?
Yes. They have expressed to San Antonio there are no Paul George deals. So trade me to Los Angeles or you are basically wasting your time. So Boston, Philadelphia, all those teams, there's really not a good reason for them to get into the hunt as far as trading for Kawhi, because he's not going to go to either one of those teams.
One of the things we talked about a lot over the last couple of weeks, right or wrong, is that Kawhi wanted to team up with LeBron, with the Lakers, and compete against the Warriors. And that's just what it seemed to be. Does this put a dent in the narrative now that Paul George stays in Oklahoma City, that Kawhi doesn't care if he goes to the Lakers or the Clippers, and he might even prefer the Clippers over the Lakers, that maybe LeBron is not exactly as attractive of a teammate, so for the other superstars, as we all thought he was a couple weeks ago?
The Paul George information as far as him going to OKC, that's not new amongst NBA players. Kawhi knew about that over a month ago. The way it was communicated to me was Kawhi has exchanged information with all the people, with Paul George's people, with LeBron's people, or anyone else out there who inquired about him. I'm not up to teaming up. I'm not about trying to be with one player. I'm going to Los Angeles, and that could be the Lakers or that could be the Clippers, and I don't care who's there. He believes even if he goes to the Clippers, then in the summer of 2019, the other free agents, with that to be a free agent year, he believes those guys will join him because they believe that Kawhi is a more attractive piece to join than any of the other top 5 players because he's the least amount of maintenance, he doesn't need the basketball, and he doesn't care about who's on the team. He don't want to select the players. He just wants to come to the gym and be able to play basketball.
And that speaks to a lot of people's response to the Boogie signing was, well, now if you're the Lakers, why would you trade your young pieces for Kawhi? Why don't you just wait a year? Even with Kawhi, you're not beating the Warriors with Boogie. So why don't you wait a year, hold on to Ingram, and then bring him in? Your information's critical here. What you're saying is very clearly, and by the way, Chris Broussard reported something similar late last night.
Yes.
Which is that if the Lakers do not get Kawhi Leonard this offseason, they might never get him. He might decide to go to the other team in Los Angeles because it's about the city and not the franchise.
Yeah, don't try to do the same thing because Magic Johnson runs the risk of this. Last year, Paul George, he's coming to Los Angeles. They just take it for granted. There's no need to trade for him. Let him go to OKC. They should have traded for him. Kawhi, you better trade for Kawhi compared to waiting on Kawhi to be a free agent, thinking he's going to select the Lakers. I wouldn't depend on that. So Magic Johnson, this is critical. Do not have the same approach that you have with Paul George. Make your best offer to San Antonio and trade for Kawhi. You already have LeBron. You should be increasing your offer compared to yesterday. We talked about, because the marketplace, I would be decreasing my offer, making my offer less attractive.
And then quickly, do the Clippers have anything they can trade for if they want to try to jump and undercut the Lakers?
They had the 12th and 13th picks, so now those things are less valuable because they're human beings instead of picks that the Spurs would get into. But right now, the Lakers offer is so paltry that, yes, they could be superseded by the Clippers. And Jerry West is a savvy manager. Yeah. But people also need to think about this part of it. LeBron signed a 3+1 with Los Angeles. He is there for the rest of his prime, however long that is. Boogie is gone. Paul George is gone. If Kawhi not only doesn't join him, but is recruiting essentially against him, even if he's not a part of the recruitment process, if now the other team in L.A. can offer the same beaches with a player that is not quite as good as LeBron, but 6 years younger, and
not the attention.
Finish your sentence.
No, I mean, that's then all of a sudden LeBron's paths to competing for another championship, it's hard to find them because there's only so many great players in this league. And by the way, it's another guy in the West LeBron would have to compete against in Kawhi Leonard, and a guy who, like you mentioned, 12-8 in his career against LeBron. When you said he feels like he has a winning record against LeBron, he does have a winning record against LeBron.
Watch LeBron just go back to Cleveland.
I don't think that's possible. Oh, yeah, the old switcheroo.
Yeah, the old DeAndre Jordan from Texas. Coming up, could Lonzo Ball be on his way out of L.A.? That's next on First Things First. Arizona rookie quarterback Josh Rosen is apparently making quite the impression. Cardinals All-Pro cornerback Patrick Peterson described Rosen's IQ as off the charts. Cece, how much does that factor into quarterback success, your IQ?
It's overrated. I got a smart guy with me. He can't play in the NFL. Patrick Peterson, be impressed with him. Go to meetings with him, remembering stuff. You'd be like, my God, I'm so impressed. But playing football? Watch the mini camp praise. I only give praise what they do in the game. Okay. All right? Deshaun Watson, last year, mini camp, awful. Preseason, awful. The boy can play football. All right? The NFL is about being able to play. Now, being smart and a quarterback, does that help? But, yeah, I need to see some game tape. I need TT. That's turf time. When I see that, then I'll give out all the praise.
All right, that's all totally fair. What I will say is Rosen, more than I would say most rookies, had a higher bar to clear with some of his teammates at least because of the narrative going in surrounding.
I don't think so. Players don't, whatever you did in college, when you come into an NFL locker room, we don't care nothing about all that stuff. We don't care about all the criticism. We're just trying to make him the best player that we can.
All right, to the NBA now. The Cavs will pick up the pieces after getting left at the altar when LeBron James went to L.A. According to reports, they're not interested in trading Kevin Love or tanking in any way. They'd like to start building around young draft pick Colin Sexton. Nick, how good will the Cavs be next season, realistically?
They'll be terrible, and they should trade Kevin Love for a first-round pick if they can. And maybe the Cavs forgot this. If they're not terrible, they lose their first-round pick. They lose that pick to Atlanta if it's outside of the top 10. So it's in their interest to be awful. Now they're going to be awful whether they want to be or not. But Kevin Love, he's not going to be part of a winning Cavs team again. So get the most you can for him. I would imagine at the deadline, Kevin Love could be on the move.
They're going to be bad. I believe they're going to move Kevin Love. I believe once you get into the season, it's nice talking off season. I believe they're going to move Kevin Love.
All right, to the NBA Summer League now. Trae Young had a bit of a tough debut for the Hawks. 4 of 20, 16 points. Chris, what do you make of Trae Young's start?
I'm not going to overreact to this. It's harder for a smaller player, especially in the NBA. I've seen this happen too many times. People forget all the great shooters that we've seen in college scoring 25 to 30 points a game. Coming to the NBA, they struggle. He struggled last night. I don't hope that he struggles, but we just haven't seen that type of player be very, very successful.
I don't care what guys do in summer league or in preseason. I want to see them CT, court time in the NBA during the regular season. Listen, Trey, this is a terrible start for Trae Young. There's no way to spin that. I think he was 0 for 11 from 3. Also, though, we have seen a lot of guys score 20-plus in college. He had the best freshman season anyone has had since Kevin Durant. That's one on a big university as well, the Big 12 like Durant was. That's why I'm bullish on Trae Young.
Yeah, he had an awful night, but he did make 1 3. He was 1 out of 11.
Oh, 1 of 11. I apologize. Thank you.
Give it to him. Don't rob the kid.
Back to our top story now. The Warriors signed Boogie Cousins to a 1-year deal for just over $5 million. Boogie averaged 25 points, 13 rebounds a game last season before tearing his Achilles in January. CeCe, how much better does signing DeMarcus Cousins make the Golden State Warriors?
Well, first, I'll get my guy Dusty and our research staff to look up what was the best player that ever signed for that 5.5, that mid-cap exception. Because I remember LeBron in Miami, I think they added, like, Ray Allen for that. Shane Battier type players. Typically, they're older players that have either won and have some championship experience, can still shoot, or, 10 to 15 minutes spot duty, and if you need an emergency starter, they're able to fill in. So we're not used to superstar players taking this reduction, like this huge risk, let alone we haven't seen the player of his quality do that, but then he's joining the best team that we've seen in the modern era as far as the NBA. So to me, it's not good for the NBA, for Golden State and what they're trying to accomplish. It allows them to now, one of the most significant things for them not being able to repeat was the injury, when we talk about injury. And Nick pointed this out to me yesterday and this morning. All the paths to trying to win a championship are pretty much covered. Now they can sustain some type of injury because they got 5 All-Stars.
Listen, how much better is he going to make them? I mean, their offense is operating at almost peak historic capacity. Like, the offense literally, there's only so many points you can score per 100 possessions in an NBA game, even if it's 92 Dream Team. You know what I mean? Like, and the Warriors are basically right there. They're at peak offensive efficiency, and he is an offensive player. So he's not going to make their offense much better because their offense can't be much better. But what he is all of a sudden, you have one of the 15 best players in the league, and he's a contingency plan. He's a guy you don't need at all, but if you do suffer a devastating injury or two, you can then all of a sudden rework your offense a bit to feature him more. That's why he's so valuable to them, because now if Kevin Durant, remember when Zaza, or JaVale, I think it was Zaza 2 years ago fell into Kevin Durant's knee, and you thought Durant, when he was going off the court, he said he was in tears because he thought his season was over. If, God forbid, if something like that were to happen this year to one of their stars, they're fine. Like, they are fine. And so that's where his real value is, and he's taking minutes from Zaza and JaVale.
Yeah, the one thing is style. We know the style for which they play. Now, once you get into the playoffs, we know the pace of the games, it slows down. What he adds is, for 5 to 9 minutes, 10 minutes during the game, if you want to go get some buckets in the paint, you can do that.
That's a great point.
I mean, like, you can do it. You talking about foul trouble? Like, they already get you into foul trouble. But if you want to go get someone into foul trouble on the opposition to pile up the fouls, he's also a good free throw shooter. And also, those fouls compounded late, the players end up shooting the free throws, end up being Steph, KD, because you get 2 or 3 fouls, and then you foul KD, they're in the bonus.
Well, and think about the only team since they got Kevin Durant to push this Warriors team, the Rockets. The Rockets' small ball lineup actually outperformed the Warriors. So they had P.J. Tucker playing center. P.J. Tucker is 6 feet 5 inches tall. And what they did basically was, you know what? If you're going to run plays for Zaza because you have a 7-inch height advantage, fine. Now what the Warriors can do is, against that Rockets small ball lineup with P.J. Tucker at center, they have the most skilled offensive big man in basketball to go run that lineup off the court. like that when they want to. The break, in case of emergency glass, can be, all right, you guys want to trot out 5 guys under 6'7"? We'll put Boogie out there to punish you.
All right, let's move on to the Lakers, who followed up the LeBron signing by getting Rajon Rondo. He's heading to Los Angeles on a 1-year, $9 million deal. Last year, Rondo stepped it up in the playoffs, averaging 10 points, 12 assists for the Pelicans. CC, is Rondo a good fit with LeBron?
I believe he's a good fit on a veteran team. He's a good fit when you have a young point guard. He's also, he's insurance in case Lonzo, the physical toll of the NBA, gets the best of him. If you need a guy that can start 20 games for you because of injury, you have to have that in place. Rondo can do that. If you get in a tight situation, series in the playoff, because I believe that the Lakers are a playoff team, Rondo does help you. A guy like Rondo, it makes the younger players, too, it makes the practices more attentive. Like, you can't slack off. You can't worry about if you're late to practice, you're not up on the matchups, you're not studying, because Rondo is a smart ball player, and he's going to demand things from Lonzo that you can't demand when you have 2 younger players. When you have a young player who's a star and you have someone as his backup, you need a veteran, someone who's been successful in the league that can keep that pressure on him. So I like having guys like Rondo where you have not committed long-term. You know that Rondo's been successful in this league. He's also been a champion. The style for which he plays is totally different than what Lonzo plays. So I do believe that he can benefit from running a ball club. Now, what I don't like is the way he struggles is they struggle with the same thing. Neither one of them are effective jump shooters. Lonzo, a better shooter than Rondo, but I believe that the pluses of having a veteran like him on the roster, it really helps those younger players, and I believe it helps ball.
Listen, people are going to point out the shooting. That the best offensive lineups with LeBron and LeBron plus shooters, they've now added a few guys that are not shooters. Lance Stephenson is one of the worst high-volume three-point shooters in modern NBA history. That's not an overstatement. That's a fact. Rondo, throughout his career, has just been not a reluctant shooter, a guy who refused to shoot until the last few years. Now, the last few years, he shot over 33% from 3 each year, and he takes a few more. But still, no one's ever going to consider Rondo a knockdown shooter. But I can tell you who does think he's a good fit with LeBron James. LeBron James. This is a guy that LeBron gave 2 quotes in the last 6 months. One was about Rondo specifically, saying he's one of the highest IQ players he's ever played against, that he calls out the opposing team's sets as they're running them, that he has a true photographic memory for these things. And then LeBron gave another quote right after the finals, talking about how the Warriors...
How do you defeat Golden State? What type of players do you need?
Smart players, high IQ players. And Rondo, you can make an argument Rondo has the highest basketball IQ of anyone in the league. You can't, like, wow. And he is playoff proven.
Yeah.
This guy from his first day in Boston was a big-time player in big playoff games. Now, he's older. He's also a guy you can't rely on throughout the entirety of the season. He is limited offensively. I'm not acting like he's a perfect player by any stretch, and they might have overpaid for him slightly. But LeBron wanted to play with Rajon Rondo. That much I can tell you.
This is a Lakers team that went from a locker room that had virtually no playoff experience last year to one that now does have veterans in that locker room and playoff experience, which really helps out. But then you have to ask the question, does this make Lonzo Ball expendable? He said he's not running at all. He wants to stay there. He wants to stay in that position. He wants to compete. But does it make Lonzo Ball expendable?
No. No, Rondo is not the future of basketball in Los Angeles. Magic Johnson, something would have to significant happen for Magic Johnson to draft Lonzo Ball, to get Rondo as a free agent, and to think that their basketball future is brighter. Now, if they have to include Lonzo in the deal,
in the Kawhi deal.
Yeah, like you got to do what you got to do to get Kawhi, but it's not as if Rondo is there to replace him. They are reluctant to build to include Lonzo in it. Now, I'm not even going to go on the San Antonio doesn't want Lonzo. I'm not believing that to be true.
I don't believe that to be true either. I think Popovich could mute the LeVar thing instantly, and I don't think LeVar's moving to San Antonio, period, point blank. Not with what he's trying to do with that league he has out in the West Coast. I just don't think that's going to happen. I do think this makes Lonzo expendable in a Kawhi trade. I do think you now can say in the 2018 season, we have a guy who can give us the exact level of production we would anticipate from Lonzo, and if we could bring in Kawhi Leonard. Now, if they make a trade for Kawhi that does not include Lonzo, then I would say Lonzo's going to be on this team for the next 5, 8, 10, 12 years. Like, I don't think they want to move Lonzo, but this is a good contingency plan.
Yeah.
This is a good, if the Spurs, if they do feel like, man, we really have to push all our chips in the middle of the table, we were offering Ingram plus a first. It does seem like the one player the Lakers are most hesitant to trade is Kuzma. So now would they, push comes to shove, would they maybe hold on to Kuzma, include Lonzo now that they have Rondo? I think that's a possibility. So I do think it makes him expendable if the net result is Kawhi Leonard.
Do you know who else is available to join the Warriors if they need someone else?
Who?
Kam Chancellor.
Oh,
yeah,
that's true.
Coming up, how will the Legion of Boom be remembered now that Kam Chancellor is retiring? He's not really joining the Warriors because that would be
Messi as well.
Just another Tuesday, Nick.
It is Tuesday. First things first. Here, so let's talk football. Because it's football. Kam Chancellor announced on Twitter that he believes he's played his last career game. He is not officially retired, but Chancellor said in the long Twitter post he doesn't believe he will be medically cleared to play. This continues the end of the Legion of Boom in Seattle with Richard Sherman now in the 49ers and Earl Thomas still holding out for a new deal. Kenny, I'll start with you. All that talent, one Super Bowl title. Looking back, do you think the Seahawks underachieved with what that defense looked like for so many years?
I don't want to say they underachieved, but, I mean, they came within one play of being able to win another Super Bowl title, that being Super Bowl 49, when Darrell Bevell, for some reason, decided that it was a better idea to try to throw the ball into the end zone from the 1-yard line rather than run Marshawn Lynch. But when I look at that defense, I mean, they've been the most dominant defense in the NFL for the better part of this decade. So I don't want to say that that group underachieved, but when I'm looking at this Seattle Seahawks team right now, the identity of the team and how they're going to have to win is going to look different than it did in the early part of this decade. I mean, it's going to have to be the offense that wins the day for the Seattle Seahawks. That's why they've tried to retool the offensive line. They drafted Rashard Penny out of San Diego State in the first round because they're going to go with that ground game, try to take some pressure off of Russell Wilson. They asked him to do way too much last year. But I think if this team is going to be competitive and get back to the postseason, it's not going to be because of the defense. It's going to be because of the offense.
Canty, I know that you have lived by the theory you sell tickets with offensive football, you win championships with defensive football. But the history of football would tell you over the last 40 years, though, it's hard to win multiple championships being a dominant defensive team. Look at the great Ray Lewis, going to be one of my teammates in the Hall of Fame this summer, enshrined in August. Been out of the game 5 years. I think he's a great example. How many Super Bowls did Ray win?
2.
Ray
won
2, but the
one
second,
early,
right,
and then one
late,
going out.
Right, and that wasn't a overwhelming dominant defense.
That was an opportunistic defense.
Yes.
The best defense I've ever seen was the '85 Bears. How many Super Bowls did they win?
One.
So when you look at the greatest defense that have ever played this, I understand the question. The question is legitimate. But overachieve based on the duplicate, the model that we've seen, this defense wasn't as good as Ray Lewis, to me. This defense was not as good as the '85 Bears.
I'll throw in the 02 Bucks. Right? Were they on
really
par with the 02 Bucks? I mean, the 02 Bucks, though, by the way, won once.
And they came up short a couple times. We just don't have blaming the coach as an excuse. So this is about what history says. If you are a great defense, so if you are an owner and you are a coach and you're building a great defense, you need to know this. It's going to be hard for you to win more than one Super Bowl in that period.
Here's the reason why I think the underachievement is a real discussion point. Is those teams, who's the quarterback for that 2000 Ravens? Trent Dilfer? 85.
Yeah, it was Trent Dilfer, Tony Banks.
Yeah,
I think,
02 Bucks was Brad Johnson. 85 Bears, Jim McMahon. None of those guys as good as Russell Wilson, and none of them as good as Russell Wilson right out of the gate. Russell Wilson was outstanding by week 6 of his rookie year. And so they had that going for them as well. And in his prime, all-pro Marshawn Lynch, which is why Russell's rookie year, they had a lead to go to the NFC Championship game with less than a minute left in Atlanta after a great second-half comeback. Then Matt Bryant hits a field goal to beat them. They dominate the Super Bowl against the Broncos, as dominant of a Super Bowl performance as we've seen in the last decade.
Since the '85 Bears.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
People forget, CC.
As dominant as a defensive performance. Well, the Rays defense didn't allow a score. It was on the kick return. That was the only reason they didn't get the shutout. But I mean, that dominant offensively and defensively, though. I mean, they won 43-8. And then, so it was the next year. It's not just the Patriots year, but that year 4 that starts off with a Kam Chancellor holdout, by the way, and the team doesn't get home field, and then the Panthers pass them up. Like
the one reason why I can debate that part of it is because, you make a point about Russell Wilson, but you seem, and I know it's on purpose, you don't talk about that awful offensive line. I mean, they have guys that weren't even playing college football in front of Russell Wilson. So we need to tell people that part, Well,
did you feel, I'm sorry to interrupt, but did you feel the offensive line was that bad early on?
They had a defensive tackle from NC State play offensive guard. So, it was probably
from the very beginning.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
In this model, their offensive line has always been very, very bad. And the other point that no one brings up is in this era with Pete Carroll, in that era that you think they should win multiple Super Bowls, check out their record on the road compared to them other great defenses.
Not very good.
The 85 Bears were not like that. Check them out. They are a 500 team when they leave Seattle. So it's hard to win multiple Super Bowls when you're only going to go 4-4 on the road.
How do you spin this forward now? You have Russell Wilson, but talk to me about the defense they have now without Cam. Cam does indeed sit out, or is actually retired for the...
Well, they still have some playmakers. They have Bobby Wagner. They have Frank Clark, who's an emerging pass rusher. They'll continue to develop some guys based on what they do draft and philosophically. But I'm just looking at this team, and I'm saying that they're going to have to control time of possession now. That's how they're going to have to win games, being able to grind it out with that offensive line that they're trying to rebuild, trying to figure out how to be successful going that direction, just because defensively you're going to lose a lot of pieces. That's what happens in a salary cap sport, and that's why I think it's harder now more so than ever to keep a championship caliber defense together. Look at what happened to the Denver Broncos defense. Seemed like that disappeared overnight, that group that won Super Bowl 50. So I'm just looking at what Russell Wilson is going to have to do. A lot is on his shoulders right now, and that's why they paid him that contract. They're going to have to give him some more money soon because of all these other quarterbacks reeing up. But when I look at this team, and that's why Pete Carroll decided to draft Rashard Penny, they're going to have to be an offensive-minded team, control time of possession. When you have a salary cap sport, the best thing to be able to take advantage of is a quarterback on a rookie deal because you can pay all those guys top dollar on the defensive side of the ball. And then the hope is that your quarterback will evolve to somebody that's capable of carrying the team, somebody that can mitigate all the deficiencies that you have in those other respective units.
Canty, my biggest concern in this era of football is something I know you're concerned about. With the new CBA you have, the lack of practice time, it's hard to play the style of football in the type of intensity that Seattle plays with. You can't practice with that in type of intensity. It's been, you can't do it.
Well, they do, and that's why Seattle ended up getting in trouble with the NFLPA.
So now the eyes of the NFL are on Seattle every time they practice, so it's hard to develop the type of players that they did. And Kam Chancellor, finding him from the CFL.
Right.
All right? Brandon Browner, finding him. Richard Sherman, late in the draft. Like all these people trading for Marshawn Lynch, who was, nothing but trouble wherever he had been before that. So now with the NFL and the new rules, how do you move forward in Pete Carroll? And to me, that's a question that they're going to have to answer that I believe is far more important than how successful they were in the past.
I also think the audience should know this because it seems jarring. Wow, 6 starters left from the Super Bowl team. Super Bowl team's 5 years ago. And this is a league where the average career is 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And so with great teams, you usually see them stick together a little bit longer than this. But so that 6 out of 20, you only have 22 starters. So 6 out of 22 is like around 32%. Like, that's not that far off what the league average is. For how many, if you just pick the Buffalo Bills, how many starters they got left from the 2013 team? Like, it's not that jarring. It's only jarring because they walked off that field after beating down the Broncos, and it felt to me like, oh, this could be the start of something very special, and that was the best it ever got for them.
All right, Chris, Kenny, thank you
Great
so
job,
much for hanging out with us today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll see you soon. Coming up, did Boogie Cousins ruin the NBA? That's next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. NBA champ Antoine Antoine Walker is here because we have a lot to break down, Antoine.
You're going to have to defend Kentucky.
Yeah,
I'm not giving you no 5. Don't be reaching over here.
We have a lot to talk to you about. All right.
I know y'all make more than that going to Kentucky.
That was actually funny.
Taking these pay cuts.
In an effort to fire up my partner Nick right here, the NBA super team just got more super. The Warriors signed DeMarcus Cousins to a 1-year, $5.3 million deal. Boogie coming off that Achilles injury, which limited his market value, or so he thought. He said he had no other offers, but that was early on, so he jumped on the chance to join the defending champs. All right, a lot of angles on this one. Antoine, first, what was your reaction to this move?
Obviously, my initial reaction, I'm a guy that hated Kevin Durant's move, and then obviously when the Cousins make this move, I hate it. Just as a competitor, when you go to a team that's already built and set, and you don't necessarily fit in with them. That's the thing that's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. Offensively, yes, he's a great passer. He can shoot the basketball, space the floor, but he's not very good on defense.
He's not a good pick and roll defender.
He doesn't. That best lineup is with Draymond Green at the 5, so he's not going to play big minutes in certain situations and games and come playoff time. He's never been to the playoffs. He's never played in big games. So, and he has his temper's. You got him and Draymond Green. You don't know what you may get. Both of these guys go after the referees very hard. They've got the history of that. So you put that in the equation. He's not a great fit. I know everybody in the league is like, oh, look at DeMarcus Cousins on paper. It looks scary because arguably he's probably a top 15 player in this league. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a great fit because defensively he's going to have problems. His attitude, he's in a contract year. He put himself on another contract year. And obviously he went there because the market was not there for him.
See, this is you saying this reminds me of something I said, which was when Durant went to Golden State. And it was obviously wishful thinking, but I was like, man, that was the best team I've ever seen as it was. I know Durant's better than Harrison Barnes, but he's going to take shots from Steph. He's going to change the way they do things. Why wouldn't you just run it back? And then you go and see him, you're like, oh, that's why. And so everything you're saying is true in the macro. In the micro, the minutes that Zaza Pachulia and JaVale McGee were getting are now going to the best offensive big man in basketball. It's not an ideal fit. And he doesn't make, and this is why it's so frustrating for me. DeMarcus Cousins going to the vast majority of teams in the league would be a franchise changer. Right? He would make the Wizards in a sign-and trade, which is something the Pelicans were working on. They wouldn't have lost Beal or Wall. It would have been like Otto Porter, a few other pieces, because they lost Marcin Gortat, if you remember. Like a sign-and-trade to Washington, and it's like, oh, that makes them much more interesting. They're one of the contenders in the East. He makes the Warriors less better, if you will, than he would any other team in basketball. But it's a hell of an insurance policy. It's a hell of in case someone gets hurt.
Well, if he comes back healthy, he helps them through the season. We know they struggle. They can get through an injury. If somebody gets hurt, you got multiple guys now you can play. If they decide to bring him off the bench, we don't know if they're going to start him or bring him off the bench because he probably suits better coming off the bench where you can feature him. DeMarcus Cousins is a volume shooter. It's not a guy that shoots 55, 60% from the field. So he needs, attempts. He needs, get the ball. So maybe coming off the bench is the best thing for him. So obviously Steve Kerr has to figure that out. But offensively, he's going to be good enough to play with them because his ability to pass the basketball. This guy averages 5 assists last year, 4.5 the year before that. So he'll pass the basketball. He can shoot the 3. So he can fit in with them offensively. Defensively, it's a whole another animal.
Do you think he's able to parlay this in to get the big contract? Because that's what he's banking on. Having a good year there, on and off the court. If you were a betting man, next year at this time, is someone signing him to a multi-year contract because he has helped been a part of them three-peating, or do you think this goes the other way?
No, I think it helps him because now he's going to be around, obviously 4 other All-Stars, guys that have won championships. He's not the main focal point. They're going to be able to control him. I think that's what Steve Kerr is going to rely on, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green being able to control him. We're going to finally get to see him play on the big stage. And I think that's going to be, if he can play well on the big stage, and you don't have to put up huge numbers to say he play well. Just help them win another title. He'll be open again in the free agent market in 2019 to make a lot of money.
So that's my question, is he's not in an organization now where they're relying on him to put up big numbers. You're not going to see what you saw from him last year. So are the main qualifiers just stay healthy, don't be a distraction, keep yourself out of trouble? If you can do all those, you warrant yourself a big max
without
contract
question. He's only going to be 28 years old.
Regardless of the numbers?
He's going to be 28. So you definitely got to consider that. That's what he's got to be thinking. And obviously, I think going to Golden State, he says he's going to be ready for training camp. He knows he can take his time.
I think that's one of the keys to it because they're such a good team. Now, there's no pressure on him to rush back. If I'm him, I'm trying to come back in January. I'm trying to come back, get me some run in before the All-Star break, and then the All-Star break until the end of the season, that's going to be my regular season. That part in January to the All-Star break is going to be my training camp.
All-Star break. I agree with you, Chris. He has to be in the best shape of his life to play with Golden State. They're not going to wait on him to come down court and throw it in the post to him. They're going to run. They get out in transition. He's going to have to be in the best shape of his life, so he's going to have to wait and pick the right time to come back.
I want to circle back to the beginning part where you said you don't like this. You and I were on the same page on the Durant thing. And the Warriors have now have made two moves that are totally unprecedented in scope in NBA history. Like, I see people, and it's as if they either have no idea of what the NBA history is, or they think people don't have Google.
Or they don't care.
They're right, sure. They're like, oh, well, what about when Barkley joined? Barkley was on his last legs when he went to Houston. He was at the end of his career. Oh, what about Peyton and Malone joining the Lakers? That was the end of their careers.
Yeah, Karl Malone, I think $1.89 million for 1 year. Peyton, late in his career, he signed a 2-year deal for a little more than $10 million.
Well, what about the big three in Boston? The Celtics were a disaster. They were thinking, are we going to have to trade Pierce? Poor Kevin Garnett had gotten out of the first round of the playoffs once in his whole career, and they bring them in, and then Ray Allen agrees to it. Oh, well, LeBron in Miami then. The Heat had not won a playoff series in 4 years. Chris Bosh had won 3 playoff games in his career, and they came together. And then there's Golden State. We're the first unprecedented move. It's not only a 73-win team adding an MVP, it's the MVP leaving a team with a top 10 teammate in Russ. And now, to double down on that, to add a 27-year-old All-NBA guy with the mid-level exception, with the same money it took to get Aaron Baines, there is no precedent for either of these moves, which is why it rubs me the wrong way, and I assume this is why it rubs you.
I mean, I'm a competitor. I want to compete against the best. He could change so many organizations, DeMarcus Cousins. It's a difference if he was a guy that wasn't going to change. He can actually change organizations where he can be a guy that stays 4 or 5 years and actually competes. He dominated in the West. This is where all the talent's at in the West. He dominated in the West. So he's going to make any team better. Obviously, Golden State don't really need him. So he's going to be in a situation where he probably plays 20 minutes a night. They probably give him some minutes early and make it seem like they're trying to, make it work. But when it gets to the bread and butter, they're playing that, what's it called, the Hampton Five? Mm-hmm. They playing that small unit. That's their best lineup right now, especially if Andre Iguodala's healthy.
Where would you have liked to have seen him go?
Wow, I would have liked to see him stay in New Orleans. I just felt like they were 27-21 with him. Without him, they was 21-13. I thought they was building something there. They kind of figured it out a little bit, him and Anthony Davis. Yeah. Could have been a situation like Tim Duncan, David Robinson, where you just it's a different style of basketball we would have saw in New Orleans, but they were figuring it out. I would have loved to see them stay there.
Yeah, and Drew Holiday emerging.
Yes.
Ooh. All right, Antoine, we'll see you a little bit later on the show. Thank you so much for the insight. Coming up, could Dwight Howard be on his way to L.A.? That's next on First Things First. Are you in or are you out on Rondo starting over Lonzo next season?
Oh, I'm out. Man, for the Lakers to really reach their potential, it's not giving up too much to get Kawhi and Lonzo, man, fulfilling his potential as a basketball player. He does a lot of things really good. And he is a better shooter in his rookie year than Rondo will ever be in his whole career. So I'm out on that.
I'm in for 2 reasons. One, I think Lonzo might be traded. The other is, if he's not traded, he just had that knee procedure. Now you can be extra cautious with the timetable with Lonzo if he sticks around, if he's not traded. So for all those reasons, I think Rondo, game 1 of the season, will be the starting point guard for the Los Angeles Lakers. See? Wasn't
the meniscus early in the season? They just revealed it was the meniscus when it was the knee.
Right, but he just had a procedure on it. He just had a procedure.
Because the rehab, because of the previous injury.
Listen, he might be traded. He's got a little bit of a knee issue. I'm in. We'll see. We got a few months to see if I'm right.
Man. Don't get upset. You're fair-skinned. You'll start getting red.
Out.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the Warriors.
He's fair-skinned. Nick's fair-skinned.
Now that they have DeMarcus Cousins, they have a starting lineup that boasts a combined 3 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs, 11 championships, and 25 All-Star appearances. So, CC, you went around on the Warriors having the best starting 5 in NBA history next season.
I'm in. I haven't seen better. And I'm talking about some of my favorite Lakers teams. Man, I'm a huge fan of the Bulls. But, man, what they throw at you is unprecedented. I'm in.
I thought I was in on this. And then, because I'm a bit of a history nerd, I went back in the archives. I'm going to bring up a team that didn't win the title. The 69-70 Lakers. Jerry West at point guard. A guy named Happy Harrison who gave you 19 a game at shooting guard. How about Elgin Baylor at small forward? And your center was Wilt Chamberlain. Now, that team didn't get it done because the Celtics beat them. But I'm going to go with the 69-70 Lakers as the very best starting 5 in NBA history. I apologize to our production crew. It was a last-minute change because I went far into the archives. The best modern starting 5 ever, yes.
80s.
All-time.
Celtics.
The 86 Celtics are on that list.
Yeah,
they
Robert
are absolutely
Parrish,
on that list.
Kevin McHale,
right.
Larry Bird,
yeah.
Dennis Johnson. Who was the other guard?
Danny Ainge didn't start for
Yes,
him.
he
Came off the bench.
absolutely did.
Come on, he was waving towels.
Danny Ainge and DJ.
Waving
Dennis
towels, wearing
Johnson.
short
You're
shorts.
so wrong.
Come
All
on.
right, so we all have 3 different
69-70. Only one had a better year that year was my dad, Clarence Carter. He was abroad.
Clarence Carter.
3 seasons ago, the Warriors set an NBA
rest
record
his soul.
with 73 wins. Then they added Kevin Durant. Then they added Boogie Cousins. Nick, you went around on the Warriors breaking their single-season wins record of 73 games.
Oh, I'm out. Listen, the Warriors don't care about competition, and they also don't care about the regular season. And why should they? It's just what the league makes its money on. It's just what the fans pay for. It's just what the TV companies pay billions of dollars for. But no, they don't need to care. Please. They've been there, done that. 73 wins. They got beat by LeBron, so now they can just punt on the regular season. They might let players coach. They might let Kerr play. Who knows? But they're not going to win those 74 games.
No, definitely not. We saw when the Bulls, when they broke the record, we saw the years after that, it becomes, and the thing for the Warriors, not like the Bulls did win the championship. The Warriors, when they did break the record, they didn't even win a championship, so it's hard to tell them. Now, what they could do, Steve Kerr and the owner be like, you know, some guys, we lost to Houston. Let's imagine we lost. We had to get better. Capella dominated us in the paint. We had to get a better. I don't think they're going to be able to pull that trick on them, though.
No, absolutely not.
All right, finally, the Warriors finished tied for the league's most technical fouls last season, and with the addition of Boogie Cousins, those numbers could get close to the 2001-2002 Trailblazers, who set the record at 88. CC, you went around on the Warriors setting the technical fouls record this season.
Did you say the 02 Blazers had 88 technicals?
Yeah.
Was the season still 82 games long at that time?
Is that a lot?
I mean, that's a lot of technicals. Go ahead, see.
Yeah, you guys got me all messed up in. I'm out. I don't believe they got 2 hotheads, but that's a lot of technical fouls.
And the NBA's changed the rules now, where you get suspended once you get to 16. So to get to 88, you'd have to have 5 guys get to 16. They'd all get suspended. You'd have to have another guy get an additional 8. That year, Sheed had 40 himself.
That's insane.
Rasheed Wallace had 40 himself. So I'm out as well. Like no one will ever approach that. That is, you know what? Well, let's go with the list. What are the lists? The Joe DiMaggio's hit streak, Cal Ripken's games, and Brett Favre and the 02 Blazers technicals. The unimpeachable streaks in sports.
All right, take a break. Coming up, do the Lakers need to go all out to get Kawhi? That's next on First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Time now for your World Cup wake-up. Belgium had a thrilling comeback yesterday, scoring 3 unanswered goals to defeat Japan 3-2 in the round of 16. The game winner came in the final moments as Nasser Chadli finished the cross in the 94th minute to send Belgium to the quarterfinals, where they will face Brazil. It's almost as if this last play was happening in slow motion. I was watching it, and it just went right down. It was textbook like the way they practiced it.
It was unbelievable. See, you said it's been how long since a team came back from 2 goals down?
Over 50 years.
In a World Cup knockout round. to win in regulation, to win in the first 90. Japan caught a little flack in the group stage for taking the air out of the ball, so to speak.
Yeah, they were stalling.
For stalling.
Less yellow cards. They knew they can get through on the
past your guys, Senegal. They got up 2-0 in this game. They didn't do that. Up to and including when it was 2-2, the reason that Belgium was able to do what they did is Japan sent everyone forward on what they thought was going to be the final play of the game, that corner kick. And then as soon as the corner kick went right to the goalie, they had basically a fast break in soccer, a counter, and there was nothing Japan could do. This was as good of a second half of a soccer game as you will ever see. I mean, the stakes are as high as you can get. This was a wonderful game to watch.
And if you want a team to watch going forward who could win it all, Belgium. They can win it all. Young talent, got some veterans, got good goalkeeping as they advance. Keep an eye on.
We're getting Belgium, Brazil in the quarters. Maybe the two best teams left in the tournament.
Yeah, Brazil's amazing. 3 out of 4 games they've played, you haven't scored against them 7 of their last 9.
That's Friday on FS1.
All right. Time for stories to start your morning, brought to you by A.S.M.th, the helpful place. Arizona rookie quarterback Josh Rosen is apparently making quite the impression. Cardinals All-Pro cornerback Patrick Peterson described Rosen's IQ as, quote, off the charts. CC, how much does that, his IQ, factor into quarterback success?
It does help because the amount of information they have to be able to consume and to be able to remember and to be able to regurgitate to other people audibly, it's a unique skill. Being smart, being able to learn things, liking to read, liking to watch film, and being able to listen to other people. Yes, it is a great skill, but don't overreact to what comes out of the mini camps and the OTAs for rookies. Last year, Deshaun Watson, awful. Man, he's going to be a bust. Preseason, even worse. Spectacular once he got that turf time, that TT. So that's what you really going to evaluate a player on. Patrick Peterson is doing the right thing. It's easy to say a guy is smart when someone else, that's all they've been saying about him since he's left UCLA.
What I do think is important, though, is as us in the media, we bang on quarterbacks who are perceived to not be smart. We talk all the time about, oh, they're going to fall in the draft. Do they understand a playbook? Can they do this? Do they have enough mental acuity for the NFL? Mm-hmm. So we got to do the flip side as well. If the guy has exhibited
But just like any other job, Nick, you can be too smart.
I'm yet to see one of those jobs.
Okay.
I think higher IQ, the better, see?
Yeah.
To the NBA now, the Cavs will pick up the pieces after getting left at the altar when LeBron James went to L.A. According to reports, they are not interested in trading Kevin Love, and they're not interested in tanking in any way. They'd like to start building around young draft pick Colin Sexton. Nick, how good will the Cavs be next season?
With or without Kevin Love, they'll be terrible. So they should. Kevin Love's value is not going to get higher. Now, maybe they want to move him to the deadline. I understand that. You want to hold on to him for first half of the season, fine. But the Cavs also, if they're not terrible, they lose their first-round draft.
So it don't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And by the way, it's not one of those picks. They have a pick that's protected that's going to go to Atlanta. It's protected 1 through 10. It's protected 1 through 10 this year and next year. Then it turns into second-rounders. It doesn't ever, it's not like it becomes an unprotected pick down the road. It doesn't ever have to be a first-round pick, assuming they're bad. And if you're saying the 19 or 20-year-old out of Alabama is going to lead us this year, well, then you're going to be bad.
Man, if Colin Sexton, if he is your guy, then you need draft picks. Mm-hmm. Please trade Kevin Love. Yeah. Stay in the bottom. I mean, when you lose LeBron, that's what's going to happen. Please trade Kevin Love. He's an asset before he gets injured again.
Everyone on the Cavs except for Sexton and Jetty Osman is on the table. Jetty's untouchable.
To the NBA Summer League now, Trae Young had a rough debut for the Atlanta Hawks. He went 4 of 20, scoring 16 points. CC, what do you make of Trae Young's start?
Now, this is not what I expected. Like, he is a great shooter of the basketball. We know that players from college, around 6 foot, like him, slightly built, they have a tough transition. We have seen it through the years happen. I believe he will struggle, but I am pulling for him to do well. Not a great showing his opening night in the Summer League.
What I was disappointed with in watching the highlights, is that his shot selection was like he was still at Oklahoma.
Absolutely.
And he's not. Like, at Oklahoma, people were banging on him for taking bad shots. If they watched Oklahoma last year, he was their only offense. Like, all his shots were going to look like forces because the defense could key on him. That's not the case anymore, even in Summer League. So the coach has got to work with him on his shot selection. I still think he has upper echelon talent, but it's going to take some time because of the frame, because of the jump to the NBA game.
All right, moving on to the Lakers. They added Rajon Rondo on a one-year, $9 million deal yesterday. He joins JaVale McGee and Lance Stephenson as new additions after the LeBron James acquisition. Nick, how do these new players now fit in with LeBron James?
I saw some people I really respect talking about how Lance could be the Ron Artest to LeBron's Kobe, or the Dennis Rodman to for Michael Jordan. I don't buy that with Lance. Lance is not as good as Artest. He's obviously not as good as Rodman. I don't think he is a real tough guy the way those two guys were. And there's nothing he's great at. And Lance is also a guy that shoots a lot of threes, but doesn't ever make them.
Wasn't Lance best utilized with the Pacers as a backup point guard?
Yeah, absolutely. As a guy who can come off the bench and be almost a change of pace. And you can see, Lance, you can tell early on, is this going to get good Lance or bad Lance? So I didn't necessarily understand the Lance signing. JaVale, for the minimum, is fine. Compete for the center spot. The Rondo part's the most interesting part, right? And so Rondo's also a guy that doesn't shoot. But Rondo is one of the, talking about high IQs with Josh Rosen, he's arguably the highest basketball IQ of anyone in the league. On that list is also LeBron. So you have two of the smartest players in the league. And I know LeBron thinks they'll fit well together. I know LeBron is excited about playing with Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, I believe Rondo is a tremendous asset, especially when you have the asset in ball. I believe you get insurance for Rondo if the body, say the knee, which you mentioned his meniscus, if it's slow to come back, you can take your time. But also, you expect him to miss maybe 10 to 15 games a year, that being ball. So you have Rondo there as a starter. And once you get to the playoffs, I believe the mentality and how the playoff changes, I believe having Rondo there every day, the expectations for younger players, they have to get to the gym earlier because of those veteran players have pressure on them. So that, I believe Rondo will be well suited there with the Lakers.
And it should be noted, Rondo, 1 year, $9 million. Lance, 1 year, $4 million. You've got KCP, we didn't even talk about, 1 year, $12 million. JaVale, 1 year, $1 million. So that is 4 separate one-year deals that add up to $26 million, which happens to be just about the amount of most max salary contract slots in the NBA. So they've got 4 guys on one-year deals this year that all could come off the books next year and open up the room for a max salary spot, which is part of the math here.
CC, what grade would you put on the job Magic Johnson has done so far with this collection of players he just brought in?
Incomplete. I still need to see some work turned in before I give him his final grade. A lot of that's going to be based on, because they lost Paul George. They made a calculated risk to allow him to stay in OKC and not trade for him. They end up losing him back to OKC for the next 4 years or ever.
Do you put that on Magic?
Well, who else are we talking about?
Don't
nobody want to talk about Rob Pelinka.
Well, no, maybe that was what Paul George was going to do regardless.
Well, no. So I don't think he's putting on Magic that he stayed in OKC. He's putting on Magic that he ever got to OKC. They could have trumped the OKC trade offer last year. And so that's Steve's point.
Yeah, so Magic, he is the face of this franchise. Magic said, if I don't get these guys, then you can fire me, or Jenny Buss, I'll walk away. So, yes, if he's going to take the credit, then he's also got to be able to take the blame. He's got to be able to land Kawhi. That's what makes this offseason. Man, you can't wait till 2019 with LeBron being there and Golden State already having DeMarcus Cousins. You got to get Kawhi. Kawhi wants to be in L.A. You have the assets and the draft picks, so you don't have an excuse.
And we'll get more into this later, but C's got some good information on Kawhi that anyone thinks, well, you mentioned with DeMarcus Cousins, might as well wait a year and keep your young stars because you're not beating this Golden State team anyway. You wait a year, Kawhi might go to Los Angeles, and it might be wearing red, white, and blue Clippers.
Yes.
Like, you might miss out on Kawhi, and then all of a sudden, we're playing this game of musical chairs of NBA stars, and who's there? Like, oh, the summer of 2019 free agency. Well, the key is Kawhi, and then there's Clay and KD. They're not, we'll see if anyone's leaving Golden State. Like, if you can get Kawhi, you have to, and we'll talk more about that later in the show.
All right, you mentioned Boogie. Let's get back to our top story. The Warriors did sign DeMarcus Cousins to a 1-year, $5 million deal, or in other words, the best team in basketball by far just got better. According to reports, Draymond Green superheaded the recruiting effort to bring Boogie to the Bay, a la Hamptons, apparently. Nick, you have a problem with the Warriors players recruiting DeMarcus Cousins?
I don't love it.
Why? What's the issue with it?
It doesn't feel right. It doesn't. This team. So listen, I understand that you win 73 games, you then blow a 3-1 lead, and LeBron sends you reportedly to your car in tears, and you call Kevin Durant. Like, that was an emotional moment for Draymond Green. He felt somewhat responsible for that team losing the way they did because he was suspended for Game 5. They had talked throughout the season to Kevin Durant, so you call him. I didn't love Durant's decision, but I understood Draymond trying to almost make good on, I might have cost us a championship, even though I don't think that's accurate. So let me try to make it good. You then get Durant. You've won the last 2 NBA Finals 4-1 and 4-0. And you are actively recruiting a guy that theoretically you had beef with? A guy, I watched you two play each other. Is it all pretend? I've watched you two on the court act as if you guys don't like each other. I've watched you two on the court, technical, referees separating you, warning they're going to throw you guys out. And now you're calling them up saying, hey, you want to sacrifice millions of dollars to come play for the mid-level exception? Like, no, I don't love that. And the Warriors didn't even have DeMarcus on their radar. The Warriors management couldn't even believe that this was a real possibility because no one in the NBA thought DeMarcus Cousins at the taxpayer mid-level exemption was a real possibility.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the players because it's typically around the league, the general managers and the people making the basketball decisions, they don't know the players as well as the players know the players. So it's the front office's job to try to maintain the level that they have been able to rise to. And it's the players' jobs to either get better in the offseason, either by their game, by nutrition, strength and conditioning, or communicating other players to make the roster. We knew they were going to make some roster changes. JaVale McGee was already going to be gone. Other players are going to be gone. So they had to get some players. So I don't have a problem with that. It's your responsibility. If you are one of the Golden State Warriors, not only how am I going to get better, how can I make this team better? So I don't have a problem with Draymond. Like, I know those NBA guys aren't tough. They talking about meet me outside. They don't mean that. They mean go out there for a cocktail or something. Like, they don't mean let's fight. So all that is just show. So I have no problem. My biggest problem is, man, Golden State didn't even know the guy was available. And Boogie thinking he had to go to Golden State to save his career, that's where I have a problem with. I do believe there would have been more significant offers for him. And if he wanted to go on a one-year deal, don't go to a team that's stacked because you're going to get the ball less. How are we going to highlight you more on a team that offensively it's going to be hard to get you the numbers that you've gotten early in your career?
So why go to Golden State? Why not wait a half a second?
Because it's a free ring, Jenna.
I can't understand why.
But not if you listen to what not if you go by what your thinking is, which is you're not going to get the numbers to value
but he's still
yourself
get
for
the ring.
max calorie.
He's still going to listen. It's because
to me, when you sign a one-year deal and you're 27 years old and you have an Achilles, we have not seen someone get better with an Achilles injury. You need to go somewhere, first of all, that they're going to take their time as far as getting you on the court. And whatever you're going to play, 40, 45, 50 games, in those games, you have to highlight not only what you do off the court because you have tremendous attitude problems. People question, can you be focused long enough? Are you a good leader? Are you a good influence on the team? And you need to show them on the basketball court that I can still play the same style. I'm still very, very athletic because I'm worried about Boogie with the Achilles injury. He is not a above-the-rim player. He is a technique, skill guy who also has a spot-up J. Can he do that with an Achilles?
Listen, Dominique Wilkins, the only player to ever blow his Achilles and come back as good or better. He's the only one. So there's real concerns for Boogie. I understand that. And people might say, well, he had no other offers. That's just flatly not true. He didn't have any max offers. He didn't have any offers that that were immediately, oh, my God, I got to take them.
Any long-term offers?
Well, I think he probably did have some offers that were longer than he wanted, but they weren't at the salary numbers commensurate with what he wanted. But New Orleans wanted to bring him back. Dallas was talking with him before they gave DeAndre Jordan that money. Washington was still interested in trying to execute a sign and trade. The idea that, he had nowhere else he could go is flatly not accurate. When he says to Mark Spears, I had 0 offers, I believe what Boogie is saying is I had 0 max offers. I had 0 offers like I thought I was getting. And so the idea that nobody else made him an offer is silly. But the other thing is this, it's not wrong to want part of sports to be competitive. It is not wrong for me to look at Russell Westbrook saying, let's go at those guys, and admiring that. Or Giannis saying, I want to win a championship here. And it is not wrong for me to want some of the Warriors to say, we don't need him. We can beat him. We haven't had to go through Boogie because the one time Boogie's team's only been in the playoffs once and he was hurt for it. Let's go match up against him and beat him. And again, for all my friends on NBA Twitter, to where evidently we're never allowed to criticize any move a player makes because we foolishly have to compare it to a regular job, even though it is a totally different dynamic than a regular job. I ask this question again. LeBron was a free agent 96 hours ago. He could have signed for the mid-level there. You cool with that? Are you okay with that? Because you're okay with Kevin Durant doing it. You're okay with the best center in basketball doing it. Like, where is the threshold? Where is the line of enough being enough in a league that an enormous amount of its popularity is the suspense of who is going to win? Is there any suspense in the NBA for the 2018 season, C?
No.
What day is it? It's July 3rd. July 3rd, and we're already talking about who could potentially win the 2020 title?
There was no suspense last year either.
There was
No, Houston. Houston had Chris Paul doesn't get hurt. They're up. I mean, they're
in July. Going into last season, we all thought the Warriors were most likely going to be exactly where they were at the end.
We did all think that. However, what I would say is the Warriors stayed where they were, and Houston adds Chris Paul. Boston adds Kyrie. Like, there were other teams that got better. And you can say, well, it's not the Warriors' job. Okay. I mean, this is a dangerous game we're playing. If we're going to act like the Warriors' only responsibility is to themselves. The Warriors can't make money playing in a league of just the Warriors. Like, the NBA's popularity matters, and some suspense helps that popularity.
Is there anything that falls on Adam Silver to do something about this, to try to change the league in any way?
No, they got a hard cap.
No, they don't have a hard cap.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's nothing he can do. If a guy decides to take less, we haven't been able to do anything about guys taking less. Kevin Durant taking a little bit less. LeBron taking a little bit less. Guys can do in this type of market. No, there's nothing he's going to be able to do besides potentially reseed with the playoffs. With the West being dominant from a talent standpoint, that's the only thing I see them doing.
But even at this point right now, the reseeding doesn't fix it. Like, the reseeding may make the early rounds of the playoffs a little more interesting. The only thing the league could do is remove the individual player max. If all of a sudden, instead of having max contracts, someone could offer Kevin Durant $55 million a year and then you wouldn't have super teams anymore. But the NBA has always had, to a degree, some level of super team. 2 superstars on a team, 3 superstars on a team. We've never had a team where the second greatest shooter ever is the 5th most accomplished player on the team. And that's what you have in Golden State now.
All right, take a break. Coming up, is it time for the Lakers to go all in to trade for Kawhi? That's next. First things first. Back here on First Things First, we're going viral. Australia taking on the Philippines in a FIBA qualifying game when an absolute brawl breaks out. 13 players ejected in this one, including Bucks center Thon Maker, who was playing for the Aussies. That's him with the flying knees.
This is ugly, man. Oh, come on, Thon.
You guys have to realize the first time he jumped, the reason why he jumped was because the guy was falling. He saw he would fall on his knee, so he had to jump over him. That's why he lifted his left knee up. See the guy falling at him?
Oh, okay.
When he coming, and now the next one, that was just uncalled for because I'm not used to using my hands to fight. Let me try to use these long legs.
And at one point, chairs are thrown in this. I also have a question. This is a game between Australia and the Philippines, correct? Thon Maker's from South Sudan. He also, I believe, spent time in Canada. How does he end up? He's on the Australian team.
This is what I was asking you before about these guys.
I'm confused.
Well, it's the same reason CC could have played for Senegal. He's got some Senegal in him if you were in the World Cup.
Got some. Well, he did find out via 23andMe.
Yeah.
He's got some Senegalese roots. I'm
Same
reading
way
here.
Thon Maker could play for the Aussies.
So he was. He moved from Sudan. He was a refugee that was accepted into Australia.
There you go.
So that's where it is. South Sudan obviously does not have a team in this. That was an ugly fight, man.
Yeah, he's going to get kicked out of Australia for lack of being able to fight. Like the Australians are looking at him and like, oh, come on, mate. That was weak.
Come on, mate. That was a good little abbreviated Australian accent.
Don't try it again.
That was great. I feel like Jenna's got a great Australian.
I can do this. All right, let's talk Kawhi Leonard. As of this morning, he's still a Spur. As of sometime last season, he no longer wanted to be a Spur. By all reports, Kawhi Leonard still very much wants to play in Los Angeles, but the Spurs have reportedly been unhappy with the trade offers they've been receiving from the Lakers. Nick, are the Lakers making a big mistake not going all out to get Kawhi Leonard now, thinking maybe, hey, we'll wait, we'll get him when he becomes a free agent next year?
So I've been saying all along the Lakers need to go all out to get Kawhi, right? That they needed it, that they could get him plus LeBron. That it would trade anything to get Kawhi and LeBron. Then LeBron signs there. I say he still should get Kawhi. You don't want to punt on a year of LeBron's prime, but yeah, I'd maybe lessen the offer. Then I see the Warriors add Boogie Cousins, and my initial response is, like, if you can keep Ingram and Ball, even with Kawhi, you're not winning a title this year. Boogie's only going to be on the Warriors for 1 year because of the way that contract's structured.
Just wait.
So maybe wait. And then I called Chris Carter, and Chris Carter gave me some very interesting information that Kawhi Leonard is not demanding a trade to the Lakers. Kawhi Leonard is demanding a trade to the city of Los Angeles. And that city has two basketball teams, the Lakers and the Clippers. And, by the way, you could make an argument the Clippers got a more savvy general manager in Jerry West. They certainly have a more established coach in Doc Rivers.
Less media scrutiny.
And a lot of things there. And you also know Kawhi, the person, a hell of a lot better than I do. And I think most people are like, yeah, but in one place he can play with LeBron. That's not as attractive to Kawhi as it would be to most players, it would seem.
Yeah, I think Kawhi has a feeling that it's not as if he does not want to play with LeBron, but he doesn't feel as if his life's not going to be complete. He believes if he's in the Los Angeles market, that means if he's going through the doors that say Clippers, or when they make that transformation at Staples and the doors say Lakers. Like, he does not care. But one thing, Kawhi, in the back of his mind, he knows that if he does go to the Clippers, they won't be able to do anything this year, but he's only 27. He's going to be 20. He feels like more players would be ready to join him next year in Los Angeles. And you don't have to play basketball in Los Angeles with the Lakers. You can play with the Clippers. And Kawhi, I know this was going to be refreshing to Nick. Man, he likes Russell Westbrook. Not to partner with him, but the way Russ has treated the whole situation. Durant didn't want to play there. Russ was like, okay, no problem. I'll beat all you guys with whoever wants to come here and play. Kawhi feels like he can beat any team or any player. He believes he can beat LeBron in head-to-head. He believes he can beat Golden State in head-to-head because he's been very successful going against KD, LeBron, or Steph independent. So he has that type of confidence that the players would come to Los Angeles for the Clippers even if he was there. And I would say that they were, because I asked them, what is the biggest misconception in this whole thing? And the biggest misconception is people think that San Antonio is a place for everyone, and it's not. It's a lot like some of the discussions that we've had about New England, where the players don't have the flexibility. Even they like to control who you're endorsing. They like to be able to sign off on, hey, you're endorsing this product? No, we prefer this other product. We prefer this shoe company over this company. Things like that begin to eat away at now. Kawhi, he wants to do all the right things, but he wants to be a free thinker. He wants to be able to, he will do things, but explain to him why. San Antonio right now is an organization, all the players that come there, they tell them what to do, and they want you to be robotic, and Kawhi is beyond that.
So let me just give people the timeline real quick. So there's already some wear and tear, if you will, on the relationship due to the restrictions on, I You want me to run my endorsements by you?
Yeah.
You want to, like, what are you talking about here? Then he finds out.
With also no explanation of why in all these things.
This is just how we do things here. And the veterans on the team saying, this is how we do things here, even though Kawhi, for the last 4 years, has been the best player on this team. Then there is, he, with his representation, finds out, all right, what type of shoe, I'm about to be a shoe free agent. What type of money can I get? Wait, I'm worth $5 million a year? When Kevin Durant's worth 30, when James Harden's worth 20, and Kawhi believes he's better than those guys. Kawhi might believe he's better than LeBron. He certainly believes he is, when you talk about both sides of the ball.
I'm going to tell you what Kawhi thinks. Kawhi thinks he's the best two-way player in the world, and that's the only thing that's important. If you're evaluating two-way players, Kawhi thinks, I'm the best player.
So that all happens. And then there is what is believed to be a misdiagnosis of his injury. And then you have Tony Parker.
Which they told him, they told him also to go out there and play, and he re-injured himself. So there was no explanation to all the other things and then the injury.
And then Tony Parker comes off the top rope with a cheap shot, which while I have been somewhat defensive of the Spurs here because I think they've earned it with their long reputation, there is no real defending what Tony Parker did to a teammate when he doesn't know what Kawhi is actually going through. And so now that relationship is irrevocably broken. I'm curious.
And it's not based on that Tony Parker saying that. It's the accumulation of things and Kawhi realizing. They could have repaired it. Like that, the Tony Parker thing was not the last straw.
Okay.
The Tony Parker thing being him saying that his quad injury was
100 times worse.
Yes, they could have.
Kawhi's.
It's the totality of everything. And Kawhi realizing at 27 that this is the only time I'm going to have control. If I sign the Supermax deal, then they could trade me anywhere. I want to go to Los Angeles. I believe that's what makes me happy. I've been here. I've learned this system. I've done everything they asked me to do. I just want to go to Los Angeles. So that right there is really the Kawhi story in the saga with San Antonio.
What is the timetable here? Because we know that there's been some reports that he'd be willing to sit out for the whole year if he doesn't get traded. But realistically, what's the timetable for when the Lakers would need to either make an offer or move on or whatnot, and Kawhi's timetable as well with the Spurs?
I don't know if there's an actual timetable. I believe it's very, very important that the Lakers try to get Kawhi and try to get him signed. The Lakers they could be the big losers in this. The Clippers don't necessarily have the assets. They'd have to probably get a 3-team trade and have to be far more creative. But to think Kawhi won't go to the Clippers and to think Kawhi doesn't have as much trust or more trust in Jerry West and Doc Rivers, then we would be misinterpreting the situation.
He did not demand a trade to the Lakers. He demanded a trade to Los Angeles. A couple other things. The idea that the Spurs have a prohibition on sending him out west. True or false?
False.
The idea that
Popovich will try to accommodate Kawhi. He likes him, but Pop has an obligation to the organization
get the best
to
deal.
leave them. Yes.
Get the best deal possible. And to leave them, he's only got a couple years left, to leave them in the best hands possible. Also, you said he has a lot of respect for Kawhi, likes Kawhi. Pop is legendary about the way he treats his former and current players. There's a great story that I think Jalen Rose tells about when Avery Johnson was working on the television broadcast with ESPN, and the Spurs were in the NBA Finals. And Avery said, listen, guys, I got to go. We have a team dinner. Avery hadn't been on the Spurs in a decade at this point, but there was a team dinner, and he was a part of it, right? I say that to say this. Kawhi Leonard won the Spurs a championship. That was a great team win, but he was the best player on a championship team. What is his relationship now with Pop?
Him and Pop still have a good relationship, and they still communicate on a regular basis.
Okay, so that's something that people think that they
not get along.
That there's been a total severance there. And then the last thing is this. From everything you've told me and from what I've learned on my own, and Chris Broussard, by the way, is adding to this report saying it is a Los Angeles thing, not a Lakers thing. It also is going to have a chilling effect on the market if you're Philadelphia or if you're Boston or if you're Miami, which seems to want to get into the game, because there is a real belief, and I'm not speaking for Chris on this, there is a real belief around the league that Kawhi, it's not about Kawhi not re-signing with those teams. It's about Kawhi not wanting to play for those teams this year. Now, I've been critical. I think he has an obligation if he's not traded to play for the team he's under contract for, and if he gets traded to play for those teams. But Kawhi has some trump cards. He can just not show up for physicals. He can do things that make it untenable to be traded anywhere, and him being so dead set on Los Angeles, I would say all of those options appear to be on the table. And
then the last little wrinkle is it's interesting that he's not craving to go play with LeBron James. He wants to go play, whether it's with LeBron or not, he definitely wants to go play in Los Angeles.
All the groups, that being Paul George and other groups reached out to him. Kawhi let everyone know that I want to go to L.A., and I'm not looking to team up with anyone, and I'm competitive. I want to compete against the best.
All right, take a break. Coming up, is Rondo a good fit with LeBron? Next, first things first. So, Nick, let me start with you. How does Rondo and LeBron fit? And then we'll get to everybody else.
It's two of, if not the two smartest players in the league from basketball perspective. So you're a basketball IQ, and by the way, Lonzo is one of the highest basketball IQs of any rookie that I've seen, but arguably the two smartest players in the league. And we've heard LeBron talk right after the season. To beat Golden State, you need not just athletes, but you need guys with the minds to beat Golden State. And Rondo has had some amazing playoff moments. I remember Rondo played in a series with Boston when LeBron was still with Cleveland, where you can argue he outplayed LeBron in that series when Rondo, I think, was in year 3. Now, he can't shoot, and he's a hesitant shooter, if not an outright reluctant shooter. That part makes it not an ideal fit, but I understand the fit. I understand why LeBron want to play with him.
Please tell me I'm in a time machine, because Rondo with LeBron, man, that sounds great. They're going to dominate the East. LeBron going back to a few more championships. That would be a hell of a move if they were in the East, right? Him joining
or if it was 10 years ago.
No. Him joining the Cavs. If LeBron had opted in 1 year, they get Rondo, backup point guard option, can fill in, gonna make him a little more mentally. But being in the West with the Lakers, like, Nick, I know you're a puzzle. Jenna talked about putting the puzzle together. I know you're a puzzle person with your girls. You ever try to get that puzzle together and be like, man, they didn't give me a couple pieces. Like they didn't give me all.
They didn't give me my 3-point marksman.
It ain't as bad as that. It's bad. It's not a great fit, but I actually do like it because if you look at Rondo and you kind of take his history test, what he's done the last 3 or 4 years. Look at Dallas. His career could have went down the drain. Rick Carlisle benched him.
Yeah, they had that moment there. Yes.
Only played 46 games. The next year, averaged 11 assists a game.
And was great in Chicago.
Yep.
You can argue they would have beat the Celtics in that series.
Let me tell you what makes it great. Rondo's going to be great in the locker room for the young guys, the way the team is assembled right now. Remember, Rondo stepped up in Chicago when Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler decided to go at those young guys. And Rondo stepped up and went at them publicly and said, look, you guys got to start practicing. Don't go at them. These guys are working hard.
Great point. Great example.
And also, he's won championships, and he's played with 3 Hall of Famers, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett. He's going to be able to play with LeBron with no problem. LeBron's best when he's playing with veteran guys that can play. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Eric Snow. Remember when he had Eric Snow with him? That probably was like this kind of the best comparison. And Rondo will come off the bench or start, whatever way you want to do. And he's playing his best basketball right now.
I want to add one other point. LeBron, one of the reasons LeBron wanted Ty Lue as his coach is because Ty Lue, because of their relationship, was not afraid to challenge LeBron. Famously, Game 7 of the NBA Finals in 2016, Ty Lue goes into the locker room and says, LeBron, we need more from you. LeBron coming off back-to-back 41-point games. LeBron was angry in the moment and says to, I think, Channing Frye, like, what's he talking about? And Channing says, he's right. Like, we need more from you, LeBron, and they go out and win the title. LeBron hasn't had a player that could do that since he was with Wade. Obviously, Luke Walton can't do that. I do not think Rondo is afraid to challenge LeBron James. Like, they had a rivalry on the court. Rondo's never been afraid of anybody. Like, Rondo is a guy that they can bring in and will meet LeBron eye to eye.
And he's the one guy that kept, Boogie. I think he got that relationship between Boogie and Anthony together.
Yes.
I think if you look at that, he was the one that kind of, hey, look, we're going to get you guys together, play together, let me orchestrate this thing. And it kind of worked out really well in New Orleans. I actually was shocked that he didn't sign back with New Orleans.
And one thing encouraging, you got to be encouraged by his overall shooting from the three-point line. Nick, as you mentioned, the last 2 years.
Well, the fact that it went from being where he would take less than 1 a game and shoot it at 25% to where now he shoots about 2 a game, around 35%.
Only thing that bothers me about Rondo's offensively is his free throw shooting.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's been bad. He's like 60% for his career.
He hasn't been well. He hasn't shot the free throw line well at all in the last 3-4 years. That bothers me a little bit. But besides that, offensively, he's not going to be a guy that's going to make 4 or 5 threes. He's going to be who he's going to be.
But speaking of shooting, the one thing that the Lakers want to do is surround LeBron James with shooters. So between the guys they have now and the guys they brought in, there's no one on this roster that shot 40% last year. That's going to be a problem for LeBron. I know how much help he's going to be in the locker room, Rondo, and maybe Lance Stephenson, some of the other veterans. But doesn't he need more help on the court?
He needs shooters. But one thing I do like about Rondo signing and Lance Stephenson signing, these guys can create their own shot and get shots for others.
Yes.
He hasn't had that. Obviously when Kyrie left, he didn't have that last year. And you saw him struggle a little bit, having to make plays for everybody. With these two guys, he don't have to make plays for everybody. We know Lance Stephenson a little erratic, but he is a good passer. Yeah. He's a guy that's had triple-doubles in his career.
Yeah, I don't believe the best situation for LeBron is just to have shooters, because when you just have shooters, there is going to be a lack of defense that you have to exchange. The greatest shooters in the world, one of them sitting right next to me. When they go past half court, something happened to their intensity. So LeBron has won, and he has spread the court, and he's utilized his playmaking ability. But going forward, what LeBron James needs is athletes. He needs guys that can get up and down the court and can get some easy buckets compared to trying to rely on a half-court set. So LeBron has thrived with older shooters. Over the last 4 years, look at how many times LeBron had the oldest team in basketball. With now it being in the West, he needs to be more athletic. So I believe being with guys like Kuzma and Lonzo, they help him. I believe the biggest problem that they have now with the Lakers is, you mentioned Rondo. Rondo struggles, Ball struggles shooting free throws. So at the end of the game, who has the basketball, or do you put them on the bench and have LeBron to be the primary ball handler?
And I will say, listen, I didn't love Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for $12 million, but he shot 5.5 threes a game at 38%. Right now, Brandon Ingram's still on the team.
Yes.
He's 39%. Go ahead.
He could defend, though. Pope might be more on the defensive end to have a legitimate two-guard that can defend.
For sure. I just think in the market this year, I think it was a bit of an overpay. But regardless, my point is, right now, and then Kuzma was 37% last year, you would expect him to improve slightly. Now, people are like, well, some of those guys are going to be traded for Kawhi. Man, Kawhi's last healthy year was 43%. Kawhi is he's turned himself into an outstanding shooter. So they're not overrun with shooters. It's not the bench unit they had in Miami where you could put in James Jones before he was a mummy and Mike Miller and Shane Battier. But you have some shooting there for LeBron.